As a constitutional law attorney, Jenna Ellis believes in the rule of law and the importance of integrity in our elections. And she's ready to tackle the big cultural and legal issues facing America. This is the Jenna Ellis Show. Here is your host, Jenna Ellis.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Jenna Ellis Show. I'm Jenna Ellis, and of course, the biggest headline coming out today was from the D.C. Circuit Court argument yesterday on presidential immunity. So what should this argument have contained? What did this argument contain? And what is likely to be the precedent outflowing from presidential immunity? Well, we'll talk about all this and more with our good friend Alan Dershowitz right after this. With inflation, the banking world collapse, and everything that Joe Biden is doing not to protect America, you need to make sure to secure your financial health, especially in retirement. And hey, if you're a millennial like me, that actually is sooner than you think. You need to start now, even if you are a millennial or a Gen Zer, to make sure that your financial health is actually healthy when we get to retirement. And Legacy Precious Metals has a revolutionary new online platform that allows you to invest in gold and silver online in real time. In a few easy steps, you can open an account online, select your metals of choice, and choose to have them stored in a vault or shipped right to your door. You'll have access to a dashboard where you can track your portfolio growth in real time anytime. You'll see transparent pricing on each coin and bar, and this puts you in complete control of your money. The platform is free to sign up for. Visit legacypminvestments.com and open your account and see this new investing platform for yourself. Gold hedges against inflation and against a volatile stock market. A truly diversified portfolio isn't just more stocks and bonds, but different asset classes. This brand new platform allows you to make investments in gold and silver, no matter how small or large, with just a few clicks. Visit legacypm.com to get started. You can download the free investor's guide, and you can also call Legacy PM Investments to talk to a portfolio expert to get expert answers to to customize your personal portfolio. So visit legacypminvestments.com to get started. Tell them that Jenna sent you. All right, so joining me now is Alan Dershowitz, who is Professor Emeritus at Harvard University and Harvard School of Law. And Alan, let's start first with, obviously the headlines and kind of get this out of the way, because some of the Epstein Client List has been released in the news, and there are some rumors and allegations on social media that you were involved in that. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to address that, first of all. And I really appreciate your time today and being willing to answer this question directly.
Well, I've been willing from day one. I called for the release of every document because I knew the documents would prove that I never had any improper contact with anybody. I've had sex with one woman since the day I met Jeffrey Epstein, my wife. And now the smoking gun email has finally come out. It's an email chain between Sharon Churcher, a journalist from a tabloid in England, and the woman who accused me. And it says, the email says, well, we know Dershowitz didn't do anything wrong. There's no proof that he did anything wrong, but put him in the book because he's famous. He represented Klaus von Bülow. A movie was made about him. And if you put him in the book, it'll help you get money for your book. And so she puts me in the book as somebody she did not have sex with, but just somebody she saw with Epstein. And then the woman herself acknowledged after all these years that she may have mistaken me for somebody else, and it may have been a case of mistaken identification. And the evidence is overwhelming. New evidence has come out showing that she identified the wrong house, she identified the wrong person. Everything was misidentified. And so I have been completely vindicated by the new evidence that's come out, but people don't believe it. I've still been canceled. The synagogue in Miami that I was supposed to speak at canceled me because I'm on the list. That was like McCarthyism. He used to hold up a list. It's on the list. And if you're on the list, you must be guilty. Well, I'm on the list because my innocence has been proven. So thanks for the opportunity to clarify that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so frustrating, and I've certainly had my share of false accusations or just twisting the truth or people just not wanting to pay attention to the facts and the evidence and what is true. And so, so it is frustrating when there are so many people that are online on social media and even in mainstream media headlines that it really, this is a matter of guilt by association. I mean, everyone knows that, that you have represented a lot of criminal defense defendants. And, that is something that frankly should be lauded rather than something that is held against you. I mean, that was John Adams had the hallmark as a founding father of someone who was willing.
And I try hard to follow in his footsteps. If you want to live in a country where people aren't represented, go to Iran or go to China. In the United States, everybody has the right to a defense. And I'm proud to have defended some of the people who are most controversial. But this is the first time I was ever accused of misconduct, and they accused the wrong guy, because I have lived such a clean life, totally faithful to my wonderful wife. And I think they realized they picked on the wrong person. And that's why ultimately they threw in the towel and withdrew their complaints against me. And she acknowledged that she may have mistaken me for somebody else. And she said, the matter is closed now, it's over. And I'm happy that it's over.
Yeah. And it is really, I'm very grateful as well on your behalf that it is over. And yet, when people continue to have this kind of false and defamatory conduct on mainstream media, it just goes back to the maxim that, a lie gets halfway around the world before truth can, even start walking. I mean, it's so utterly ridiculous, but I'm really glad that you clarified that. And you're also promoting a new book. So tell us about that, because this is a really important book in the midst of everything going on in the Middle East.
Well, I wrote this. I started it on October 7th, the day of the brutal attack by Hamas against civilians. And I wrote it and finished it in 30 days. And it got produced within 60 days. Maybe it's in the Guinness Book of Records. But in any event, it comes from my heart. I care deeply about Israel. I know people who are involved. I know people who are related to some of the hostages. And so the book is all about not only October 7th, but what happened thereafter, and what happened at Harvard, and what happened generally in American academia. So it's a very contemporary book. I hope people will read it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always read all of your work, and I find your insights and analysis to be really incredibly substantive in fact and law. And I appreciate the fact that, you're a Democrat. I'm a conservative. I'm no longer part of the Republican Party because, frankly, I don't think that they share my values anymore. But, even though you and I diversify in terms of politics, we both agree substantively on the rule of law, on values, and how we have to continue to have a rule of law in this country.
I am closer to many real conservatives than I am to the radical wing of the Democratic Party. Conservatives and liberals share an open-mindedness, a willingness to debate, a willingness to hear all sides of the issue. Radicals on the left and extreme reactionaries on the right share a kind of Stalinist view of we know the truth and we don't need debate and dialogue. So I'm happy to work with genuine conservatives, because genuine conservatives and genuine liberals, I think, share a lot of libertarian values.
Yeah, really well said. And that actually is the perfect segue into the topic for today, which of course is presidential immunity. And I find that there are so many reactionaries on both sides that if you love President Trump, you think that he absolutely should be immune from literally anything. And if you hate President Trump, as a lot on the left do, then he should have absolutely no immunity or even the privileges that have been associated with the office historically. Right. And neither of those are actually good precedents. So from your view, let's break down kind of this subject first and foremost of presidential immunity. How do you view this issue, and how should we view this constitutionally?
Well, first of all, the extreme left and the people who represented Jack Smith are totally wrong when they said that a president only has immunity while he's serving in office. If a president is prosecuted for something he did while president, but is prosecuted after that, of course he must get immunity. Otherwise, presidents will be very concerned about doing things. But presidential immunity doesn't extend to putting out a murder order on one's political opponents. It has to be within the tradition of what a president does, which is a broad tradition. And I think it's a close question on January 6th. I think reasonable people could disagree about what he did. I don't think what he did was criminal, by the way, because I think he mostly is guilty of inaction, of not doing enough maybe to call off the mob that entered into the Capitol, but he didn't tell the mob to go into the Capitol. He said he wanted them to protest peacefully and patriotically. So I don't think he needs immunity to avoid prosecution for January 6th. But if he does, I think the Supreme Court will split the difference and say, no, he doesn't get broad immunity for everything. But that's too close to the presidential act to make sure that the laws are faithfully enforced. So I think the Supreme Court might well give him immunity for at least some of the aspects of the January 6th indictment.
Yeah, and I hope that that the Supreme Court will, just like the 14th Amendment issue and the whole ballot controversy, not look at this as too political and not look at this as just dealing with Donald Trump, but rather the precedent that needs to be set for the future. And I feel like the argument yesterday got a little bit off the rails with Trump's counsel suggesting that somehow a criminal prosecution can only follow if there is an impeachment and a conviction. I don't see that in the text of the Constitution at all.
I don't either.
So what do you make of that argument, or why they raised it?
I think both sides exaggerated and both sides overstated their arguments. And but I think the court will rule against Trump. It's the D.C. Circuit, after all. But I think the Supreme Court may very well split the difference and rule in favor of Trump, at least on some aspects of it. I do think a president does have immunity after he leaves office for something he did while in office, but it has to be within the scope of his presidency. And that's a decision that has to be made based on the totality of the circumstances. So I think the Supreme Court will either not take the case, which is possible, and let the circuit court decision stand, or if it takes the case, rule that some aspects of what the president is accused of are covered and some aspects are not. Not a total victory for either side.
Yeah, and I think that this can track with principles of qualified immunity that we've seen in other instances. I mean, for example, the legislature always has legislative immunity from criminal or civil lawsuits based on their actual conduct in office, because if everyone could politically sue over something they disagreed with and legislative action, or police officers, for example, then we would be mired in people not willing to do a job that is inherently political in nature. But at the same time, we need exceptions to that. We see excessive force, for example, allowing for criminal prosecution. So where do you think the bright line here needs to be or should be for presidential immunity?
Well, I don't think there's any bright line, but I think there's one thing that's very clear. I'm in favor of free speech, but I would ban, if I had the right to ban one statement, it would be no one's above the law. I would ban that from politics. Of course, no one's above the law, but the law exempts legislators from certain prosecutions. The law exempts judges from certain prosecutions, and the law exempts presidents. The Supreme Court back in the Watergate case said, don't tell us that no one's above the law. That's the most ridiculous statement of all. It's the Constitution and the law that says that certain actions, which can be prosecuted if certain people commit it, can't be prosecuted if other people commit it. So let's no longer use this cliche of no one's above the law. The question is, what is the law? Does the law give exemption to certain people for certain actions? And the answer is, yes, it does. And so the question is, how much of what a president does is within the law, taking him outside of normal prosecutorial accessibility, and how much of it is not? That's the question. But let's not talk about no one's above the law. Everybody understands that, and everybody uses it as a cliche today.
Yeah, what a great point, because that invoking that cliche presumes that the law criminalizes the activity in question, or that there aren't exceptions within the law. And I like to say, well, yeah, no one is above the law, but no one is below the law either. And it's very clear that conservatives, by and large, including Donald Trump, have been treated as somehow below the law, or that the law is always adverse to their interests. And I really think that if the argument had been framed by the Trump team and by his counsel yesterday, we might potentially see a little bit different opinion from the DC court than probably what's going to happen. But do you think that this is, just based on what we heard yesterday, is going to be a fairly narrow ruling in terms of just as it relates to this particular prosecution? Or is the DC court going to kind of open it up more to into what is and isn't presidential immunity a little more broadly?
I think it'll be a little bit more broadly, and I think it's predetermined that it will come out against Trump. And the real question is, will they grant the stay? And will the Supreme Court grant the stay? Will it influence the scheduled March date for the prosecution? Will the Supreme Court take the case? And if they do, how will they decide it and when will they decide it? Look, I have a column coming out today or tomorrow in which I say courts are playing too great a role in this election. You know, Hamilton said that the judiciary is the least dangerous branch. It has neither the power of sword nor purse, and it should be playing a limited role. But now the whole election seems to turn on court cases. Does he have immunity? Can he be taken off the ballot? Can he be prosecuted in New York? Can he be prosecuted here and there? Can Hunter Biden be prosecuted in the middle of the election? Too much of the courts playing a role, and this has happened since Bush versus Gore, which I wrote a whole book about called Supreme Injustice. I didn't like that the Supreme Court's role in that case, and I think the courts are playing too great a role. And in a democracy, courts should play a very, very limited role. They're unelected after all.
Yeah, really well said. And I think that that was an argument that, again, got a little off the rails in terms of a separation of powers and leaving the politics within the political branches rather than having the judiciary arbitrate everything. And you're hearing my two dogs in the background because they're hearing something. And I think that that's just them agreeing with you, Alan, and you know, saying, yes, absolutely. That's what I'm hearing.
Always had success in getting dogs to agree with me. I've had a little less success in having judges agree with me, but I can't complain.
Well, that's why dogs are man's best friend instead of judges, I guess.
Right.
But the last question for you as well is that some have said that perhaps the DC Circuit and then potentially the Supreme Court are going to look to try to just dismiss this as kind of an invalid interlocutory appeal, or that something that's not timely enough, because Jack Smith and the DOJ have tried to get a ruling on presidential immunity before Trump can raise that at trial. So do you think that there's any potential merit in that possible outcome?
I don't think so. I think the Supreme Court has resolved that. I think the Supreme Court has basically said, look, let's put it through the process of the Court of Appeals now, and we'll take the case. It's conceivable the court will say, look, we'll wait until there's a conviction, if there is a conviction. But I think more likely they'll take the case now. But that's not certain. You ask all the best questions, by the way. So.
Thanks so much, Alan. And I always appreciate your insights. And I think that you gave the best analysis and answers. And so we'll see how the DC Circuit and ultimately the Supreme Court opine. So thanks so much for joining me again.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
With inflation, the banking world collapse, and everything that Joe Biden is doing not to protect America, you need to make sure to secure your financial health, especially in retirement. And hey, if you're a millennial like me, that actually is sooner than you think. You need to start now, even if you are a millennial or a Gen Zer, to make sure that your financial health is actually healthy when we get to retirement. And Legacy Precious Metals has a revolutionary new online platform that allows you to invest in gold and silver online in real time. In a few easy steps, you can open an account online, select your metals of choice, and choose to have them stored in a vault or shipped right to your door. You'll have access to a dashboard where you can track your portfolio growth in real time anytime. You'll see transparent pricing on each coin and bar, and this puts you in complete control of your money. The platform is free to sign up for. Visit legacypminvestments.com and open your account and see this new investing platform for yourself. Gold hedges against inflation and against a volatile stock market. A truly diversified portfolio isn't just more stocks and bonds, but different asset classes. This brand new platform allows you to make investments in gold and silver, no matter how small or large, with just a few clicks. Visit legacypm.com to get started. You can download the free investor's guide, and you can also call Legacy PM Investments to talk to a portfolio expert to get expert answers to customize your personal portfolio. So visit legacypminvestments.com to get started. Tell them that Jenna sent you. My friend Mike Lindell has a passion to help you get the best night's sleep of your life. He didn't stop at the pillow. Mike also created the Giza Dream bed sheets. I have them. I love them. These sheets look and feel great, which means an even better night's sleep, which is crucial for our overall health. Mike found the world's best cotton called Giza. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. Mike's latest deal is the sale of the year. For a limited time, you will receive 50% off the Giza Dream Sheets marketing prices down as low as $29.98, depending on the size. So go to mypillow.com and click on the radio podcast square and use promo code Jenna, Jenna. There, you'll find not only this amazing offer, but also deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the MyPillow 2.0 mattress topper, MyPillow kitchen towel sets, and so much more. I have all of this. I love it. Everything from MyPillow and also mystore.com. You can use promo code Jenna. So go to mypillow.com, use the promo code Jenna, and also mystore.com. And remember, use the promo code Jenna.